Audible is audio entertainment that entertains, educates, and inspires. For you, the listeners of the CreepGeeks Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/CheapGeek. Again, that's audibletrial.com/CheapGeek for your free audiobook. Enjoy this with your free trial. 30 days of membership free, plus 2 free audiobooks that are yours forever. 1 credit a month after trial, good for any book regardless of price. Exclusive member savings. Get 30% off additional audiobooks. Easy exchanges. Don't love a book? Swap it for free anytime, seriously. Again, that's audibletrial.com/CheapGeek for your free audiobook today. Welcome to the CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And it begins again.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is our CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 202.
Spooky Christmas, Strange Christmas, Dark History Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, so anyway, we're going to move into the podcast. We got a lot of stuff to talk about and got a short time to do it.
Yeah.
Because we always threaten to be brief and we never are. So anyway. Okay, so if you want to contact the podcast and leave us a message or something you'd like us to talk about or a little bit of wisdom or information you'd like to imbue upon us, we have a phone number for you.
That phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Yes, you can leave a message.
Yeah.
So anyway, as you may have heard just about 20 seconds ago, we do Audible.
Yeah.
And Audible has a free trial, and if you want to try it out or trial it out, you can certainly do that. And if you're looking for a super inexpensive gift to give somebody, sign them up for Audible.
Yeah.
And then put it in a card and say, hey, I signed you up for a free trial in Audible. Don't forget to cancel. And then you can put a heartfelt message underneath it. Love you little. I love you big. I love you like a little pig. Yeah.
Okay.
That just means you care.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So with this particular podcast, we're going to talk about Christmas type stuff, some holiday type stuff, because it is Christmas.
Yeah.
And this is going to be our last podcast until right before 2021.
Yeah.
So, take a couple days off, that kind of thing. So anyway, we did give you the phone number. We do have a Facebook group and a page where you can find us if you'd like to kind of share some of the memery that happens. Is that a word, memery?
Yes, it is.
Because we do like to share funny stuff that we think is funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of what
or
we do.
Amusing.
Yes.
Now, the Facebook page, that's going to be CreepGeeks Podcast. We also post the podcast episodes up there, as well as other announcements from the show. The group, which we'd really like to grow, it's pretty easy to find, CreepGeeks Facebook group.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Works out pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple different things you might want to be aware of this particular holiday season. This is a holiday that's kind of different because of the whole, I don't want to say the pandemic word because you might get in trouble for saying that.
Yeah.
Because it's sad as it is, there are a lot of social media outlets out there that are basically flagging you for using that word, even though that's kind of what we're all in and that's what we're all experiencing together, but it is what it is. So this particular holiday season is kind of weird because we have some stuff going on. People can't be with us. There's social distancing involved and sharing, your loving experience across distances through telecom and Zoom and everything else and the internets and all this because you can't physically be with the people you want to be with.
They're just calling it 2020 now. They're skipping the P word
Yeah.
and the C word. But the whole distances and like everybody has to stay home and things like that, it kind of does harken back to the way things used to be way back in the day, like the whole pioneer era. And,
you just had to send your letters like 3 months in advance.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it kind of is what it is. And let's just all take a second and recognize that the post office is completely overwhelmed with the packages and stuff. It's come as a big shock to the United States Postal Services that they have to deliver much more volume of letters and packages than they do. It's like it's a shock to them that people are going to mail stuff. Like, look, What do you mean? Where did all this stuff come from? It's what you do, man. Every year, it happens. Every year, the Postal Service should expect to be inundated with packages and letters and things like that because this is what people are doing, and it should be even more obvious during this particular time of year in a situation we're all in.
In 2020, where less people can go visit their loved ones, you mean there might be an increase in packages sent to those loved ones?
And if you're a Postal Service person... I mean, come on, man. It's what you guys do. And I get it. It's a struggle. And, and I'm not aware of what goes on in the inner workings of the Postal Service. But, dude,
there's no reason.
It's like I bought a package, right? It should have been here 8 days ago. Got it off Amazon. And, and here's what happens. You buy something off Amazon. You look and you're like, sweet.
Paid for
and then it says no. Hand it over to the USPS. You're like, that's it. It's like, why do I even have like Prime? It's never going to get, and you know what? It has left the same facility and came back to the same facility according to the automated messages like 4 times. Yeah. Where are they just putting it on a truck? It rides around the block and they just bring it back again? It's not even that important.
It's like when we take Pepper for a car ride.
Yeah, she gets all excited. She's like, heck yeah, we're going somewhere exciting. And she just stays in her little car seat because we just like ran errands and didn't go and stop anywhere for her to sniff.
They took our package for a car ride and took it through the Arby's
drive-thru.
What they're doing.
It's a book. It's a book that I bought. Remember when I bought that? I bought 2 books. I got one of them like in 2 days because it wasn't surrendered to USPS.
Yeah.
And the other one is like, it's been going and leaving and coming back to the same facility for 4 days now.
Well, you saw the package that arrived today with the big giant rip in it and the coffee spilled on it. And the worst thing is that coffee is old.
That's gross.
And this package...
What do you mean old? Like
it's like gummy, but you can smell it. It smells like coffee that has some very, very sweet creamer.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm like, this package...
It's probably, it's like Brenda's riding around in her crusty Subaru or something. With a brown Moore 120, like a really long, super skinny cigarettes just hanging out of the side of her face trying to deliver packages. Like, I spilled some coffee. Let me go ahead and wipe that up in a second. And then forgets about it.
But this package traveled across country lines, came from Mexico, came all the way across the United States to end up in Western North Carolina, riding around with amaretto creamer coffee spilled all over it for at least 4 days.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Yet my stupid book that I bought used from Goodwill is just leaving the same facility and go. It's like it gets put on the truck and goes for the ride. And at the end of the day, they're like, huh, what's this? And they just put it back in the same bin, and somebody goes bleep with a little scan gun, and guess what? Gets back on the same truck again, just keeps going for rides. Like, just, I don't even, and then Amazon is super helpful. Hey, if you haven't received your package 21 days after you did Prime for it, give us a call. And by call, they want you to use their online chat thing, and you can't really find the online chat thing on Amazon. You actually have to search online chat to try to get to it. It's just an aggravation.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't even want the crappy book anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe that's the whole thing. The book, whoever has your package has gotten attached to it, and they don't want to give it to you.
No, yeah, it's like when you load up your messenger bag to go to school, and you keep putting the same garbage in it over and over again. You don't really need any of it. So yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's the podcast.
No.
As we grumble about mail and stuff, and look, and we're making light of the situation, but it's like. Here's kind of how I look at it. This is not a new thing for everybody. We've all been kind of locked down and everything since like March.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say
you had time.
April. Yeah. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. You've had 8 months to realize that people are going to utilize these online and delivery type services more than any other time.
Yeah.
So fix it. Well, I don't understand what the problem is. It's not like you have other stuff to do. It's not like, you're like, hey, I got to deliver this package, but at the same time, I need to build you a shed. So I've been real busy building you a shed, so I haven't had time to mail you a package.
Oh, could you imagine, like, part-time United States Postal Service, part-time the IRS.
Well, we've seen that in New Mexico where it was like part-time mail post office person / money order person / gas station attendant / cashier / deli where they would make you food and soup and stuff. And there was something else too. Oh, and U-Haul.
Yeah.
Like all in one spot. You can get like a U-Haul trailer. You can get gas. You can get something to eat, like a nice, burrito or something like that, a taco. Mail a package and then pay the same lady for everything. This lady did it all.
Oh, and booze.
Yeah, and booze. Yeah. And there was a small smoke-filled casino in the back that had 5 casino machines.
Yeah.
With a big sign that basically said, adults only, smoking allowed, children not. And you know what? Fantastic burrito.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, here, not now. So.
Yeah, here it's like, let me go ahead and find a shirt that says United States Postal Service on it because we ain't wearing the uniforms no more. And let me jump in the car and take off.
Yeah.
And hope for the best.
And take Greg's package on an adventure.
It's like they threw it in the front seat and rode around for like, oh man, I got to pay that bill. And then 4 months, it's like 4 months later, you find the same bill, either in your visor. Because I've done that before. I'm like, no, look, I know I paid it. Because, and then I dropped the visor and this, bill fell out. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't actually pay it. So, yeah.
Okay. We have gone on way too long about this.
Yes.
So.
But I mean, hey, we can all relate, and if you can't relate, then you're just unrelatable. What? It's true.
Okay.
Okay, so speaking about unrelatable things, we did find some things that we thought to be interesting, and there's kind of a theme here going on because it is Christmas, and we're going to talk about ghost stories and how the Victorians did it so well, dark history of Christmas traditions, because there are some dark history, type things, because nothing good from back in the past was without a dark underlying tone to it. There was always that little air of danger.
Oh, okay.
Which is because, hey, you got to do the bad stuff before you can do the good stuff and, all that kind of stuff, right? It's all about lessons and life lessons and all that dumb stuff. Then we're going to talk about weird Christmas foods. Yeah. And then we're going to ask what your favorite holiday / Christmas gift you've received is. And it can be anything you want as long as it's interesting. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. It can be anything you want.
Okay.
And that's about it. Oh, and we do have, through the magic of Creative Commons License 4.0 and internet music and, from internet music artists, free Christmas music. Oh. 3 songs, 7 glorious minutes of Christmas music.
Okay.
And we will do our best to give the Creative Commons attribution to it so that attributes so you can know who did it and where it came from and where you too can download amazing internet Christmas music utilizing the Creative Commons License 4.0.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. You ready?
Sure.
Okay, so the Victorians were, pretty good at the whole Christmas story, right? Yeah, Charles Dickens did the Christmas story. So why were they so good at it in general? Mm-hmm. And Victorian era, a lot of people it's not like that necessarily though. Is it, it's the book that all the girls read. Like Little Women and Jane Austen and all this stuff. It's where women suddenly become or start to become empowered. So all they read about it's like Victorian era type stuff. We're talking about 19th century,
Well, it's because women had the ability to get published.
Yeah. But, when you talk about some of the stuff from the Victorian era, you really have to look at the Christmas story, right? Charles Dickens wrote it, and pretty much it is, one of those sort of, Victorian era stories. It's got all the elements to it to make it a good Christmas story, to also make it a great ghost story. Mm-hmm. It's a story that you can enjoy as an adult, and you can also be scared as a child because it's creepy. It's like Edgar Allan Poe kind of creepy, but maybe slightly before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you picture yourself curled up by a fire and you hear the ghost story, and you hear the creak of the floorboards and, basement murmuring, that kind of thing. The weird sounds coming off, a distant dog barking, maybe some fog, flickering candle, fleeting shadows.
Creaky cellar.
The horned, hairy hand that appears at your elbow. Did something move? Is there a face in the brickwork? A murderer long ago buried in the cellar? Yeah. A beating heart? A raven's eye? Wait, is that a story?
Yeah, but that's Poe, not...
I'm including it in it.
Okay.
That's why I said Poe to be.
Okay.
You just ruined the gas lamp hallucination that I was trying to...
I didn't.
All right.
Keep going.
All right, so the Victorian era is basically a time when the ghosts proliferated, were most obviously in fiction, but they also had them on stage as well, and in photographs and drawing room seances, because it became sort of popular during that time around 1830s.
Yeah, there's a whole thing with like Victorian mysticism and like occultism and spiritualism became popular. So...
And you had different writers like Mary Louise Molesworth. She wrote the story of the rippling train, and her character was Miss Snowdon. And basically, she was, bemoaning the ghost prevalence and says, "One hears nothing else nowadays." Mm-hmm. Right? And then she would basically talk about another ghost stories about another phantom, beautiful woman trapped on a train, being terribly burnt in a fire, all this crazy stuff. So we're talking about the elements that make up a good Victorian era type ghost story. So you got to have a ghost. Mm-hmm. You got to have a spirit, it has to be kind of a restless spirit. You also have to have the character in the story that has an issue.
Yeah.
Like Scrooge had an issue.
Unresolved emotional issue or baggage.
And then, which is great because that's during the time, and especially in Victorian era time, where things were, dark, dank, bleak. So with some of the elements that make up the story, right? When you look at Charles Dickens in his own Christmas Carol, was super highly successful. And fun fact, this was the same year that the first commercially produced Christmas card was sent.
Yeah.
And so Dickens had his Christmas Carol, and basically the story came out. So it influenced a growing trend of marking Christmas with secular celebrations. And this is according to Dr. Andrew Smith, who is the author of The Ghost Story.
Yeah.
Which one basically covers the period of 1840 to 1920. It says people like Dickens wanted to revive some notions of community, and so they invested in the idea of Christmas. And it says what's interesting about his version of Christmas is that it's not particularly Christian. Mm-hmm. It's about the family helping the poor in a moment where you might pause and reflect on your life. And it's about Ebenezer Scrooge realizing through the counsel of a ghost that he must embrace his family, look after his good-natured clerk, and become the embodiment of generosity.
So you have two things there. You have, this transition of Christmas being this very, very religious or centered around some sort of religious theme to being more community and more humanity. And then in the same breath, it's commercial. Like this is the era where things started becoming commercially produced. The Christmas Carol, it was published in serial form, so it was published in segments.
Yeah, and that's part of what made it so interesting because it was a series.
It was almost like tune in next time.
Yeah, and which became popular because later on you had the radio type series. And you also had newspaper series and small paperback or small book series.
Yeah.
And then we carried that in through with like TVs. You have a weekly series,
And you could go to the store.
Episodic, really, is what it became.
You could go to the store. You could get your shopping done. You could buy that commercially produced Christmas card. You could buy an easily accessible copy of a book. And this is back during the time where books are still highly valued.
Yep.
And you could buy these for an affordable price for multiple people you care about.
It's almost like a one-way internet.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, really... when you kind of look back at how this sort of became the thing, when the newspapers became printed every day and become really sort of easily accessible and books became even more readily accessible, and you had things where like, plays and productions became even more accessible and became more popular because you had places that became really more city than country and more industrialized. That's sort of the beginning of the whole pop culture thing. And that's part of what made this Charles Dickens serial story, A Christmas Carol, really popular. So there wasn't anything that would anger the Protestants or anger the Catholics or pretty much just anger anybody who wasn't necessarily, or even the pagans, right? There wasn't really anything in there that would really sort of anger any one particular group or another to put them off. It was just a generalized story of a crusty dude who wasn't embracing and able to see the value of the things that he had. So he was holding on to his wealth with selfish greed, and at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about friends and family and the acquaintances that you make, because that becomes the story of your life, not the possessions and the worldly possessions that you had, which really went and told that story pretty well to the populace at that time, the regular people, because they didn't really have a lot during that time.
Yeah.
So.
And that was a thing that you didn't have a lot at the time. Yes, more things were being introduced to society, like easily accessible books and, modernization or industrialization or whatever, but you still didn't have a lot. So just being able to tell stories and now have these books, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the popular thing were ghost stories because they were so easy to get done.
Oh yeah.
That whole formulaic, or, you can cut any ghost story down. You can go, like the wailing woman in white. You can set it in any scene, and you can twist it however you want and publish multiple copies or multiple variations of that type of story.
Yeah. And it also kind of lies to the fact that if you're a garbage human, you attract bad things. If you're a crappy person, you can expect to attract a ghost or a spirit or a specter or something like that. Something that shows you the consequence of your actions to help sort of like steer you on that path. So if you're a garbage person, you can expect bad things.
How does that? Okay.
Ebenezer Scrooge was a garbage person.
Well, I was just talking in general about the ghost stories.
I know. And you talked about formulaic ghost stories, and that's part of it. If you're a garbage person and something supernatural happens, it's designed to teach you an obvious lesson, obvious to the reader or the person who's experiencing the story or whatever it is. Okay. It becomes obvious, right? When you read it, you're like, oh man, the obvious answer is be a better person so that you can get out of this situation. So the garbage person puts themselves in this terrible situation because they're a garbage person, right? Their ethics are skewed. So what happens is the cosmic universe, the whatever, needs to show up and say, hey, if you don't get on the straight and narrow.
So these, yeah. Okay. So
you don't get on the straight and narrow, right? What happens to you?
Bad things happen.
Yeah.
So these ghost stories, you can interject whatever protagonist or antagonist.
Yeah, because it becomes about societal norms. If you don't join in society and do the right thing, and place the value in the things that are really important, which is humanity and loving and caring and all that good stuff and appreciation of each other, not only is bad stuff going to happen to you, but bad stuff's going to happen to you in a way that you didn't expect before, stuff that you can't control.
So is that why these stories in general became so popular with the Victorian people?
Sure, because they were in a dark, dank environment. You had Jack the Ripper and all sorts of other crazy stuff. It was basically considered an industrial sort of boon, but at the same time, it was also kind of dark. You had like plagues and crap happening,
Lighting was often provided by gas lamps.
Sure.
Which had been also
they were still
implicated
dumping poop in the street.
In the rise of ghost stories in general. However, the carbon monoxide they emitted could provoke hallucinations.
Absolutely. And the water was still kind of nasty.
And there was a preponderance of people encountering ghosts in their daily life come the middle of the century.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of that. So society is a great thing. They want you to be part of society as a whole and civilization as a whole. Be in society, treat each other right. But at the same time, society and civilization was killing them. Now, later on, with all of this, with the ghost stories and the Christmas Carol and that formulaic sort of version of telling, the story like this, they did the old reversed okey doke.
Okay.
Where the person who's inherently good experiences a bunch of bad stuff and has to stick to their morals, right? And has to basically pull that moral fiber nice and tight and basically save the day by sticking to what they believe in and the inherent good built into them.
Okay.
Because society is completely against them, or in this case, the antagonist of the whole thing is like a much bigger force, and they should not be able to survive, but they can. And then later on, you watch that Christmas movie, right, and have to argue with people that see the two sides of it. One side is they say it's not a Christmas movie. The other side of it is say, of course it is. You know what movie that is?
What?
Die Hard.
Okay.
He's kind of like the Scrooge in the movie. Even though he's inherently good, he's going into a situation where he's uncomfortable. Right?
Okay.
And what happens? That whole civilization side of things, he's in it, but he's not in it, but he has to be uncomfortable in the situation because he doesn't fit that mold anymore because he's sticking to his moral fibers, his rigor. And then you got like Hans Gruber and those guys showing up out of nowhere, and they're part of society, but they're working it against him.
Okay.
But he saves the day because he's John McClane. And at the end, you know what basically suffered worse out of all that, aside from Hans Gruber?
The building.
Yeah. Nakamichi Tower. Was it Nakamichi? Nagatoni? I think it was Nagatoni. Anyway, blowed up. Yeah. Damn the corporate. Because that's really the bad guy.
Nakatomi Tower, which is really the Fox Plaza in Century City.
Yeah, they blew it up.
Yeah. So, speaking of blowing up, like I was mentioning with the gas lamps, the carbon monoxide poisoning, this perpetuated a lot of this whole ghost thing. So the Victorians, this whole easily accessible ghost stories, the industrialization they lived in with the gas lamps, the carbon monoxide, and then there was an explosion of a thing called spiritualism. So the vogue for spiritualism was underway. The Fox Sisters of New York heard series of tappings, spirits, communicating to them through code, and this caused people to gather in small groups, sounds like today, and try to recreate some of this ghostly or paranormal activity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the interest in the supernatural might seem odd with the growing body of scientific and technological advancements during this era, but many argue they were intimately connected because you had this exposure of unknown through science. Science is causing these things to be further explored, but then you have people holding on to those core elements. Like in Christmas time, you're holding on to that core element of community and kindness. People are holding on to those core elements of the unexplained. Why? Because it's easy and it's comfortable. And in the winter,
they're in a particular point where the whole scientific thing and technology thing really sort of became popular.
Yeah. And
Morse code, the telegraph, all this magical witchcraft stuff that the common person didn't really understand, you know?
And then the growth of photography, spirit photography, that started in the 1860s. So, I mean, even like they're talking about Lincoln in this article, Abraham Lincoln and Mary Todd, they were kind of, into the whole spiritualism a little bit.
Well, she was for sure.
Yeah.
Him not so much, but I think he just, put up with it.
But it made this perfect storm, going back to this article, it made a perfect storm for the interest in paranormal and supernatural and ghost stories to just come about. You had this constant flux of technology versus holding on to these old thoughts or old tales that you may have gotten from your rural village, even though now you're living in an industrial area. And the isolation, but also the availability of information, I think it made that perfect storm of holding on to.
And part of the thing about the entire Victorian era thing is that it was creepy and gloomy and everything to begin with, and it stays that way. It's like different types of genres out there when it comes to like everything from ghost to paranormal to all of that stuff, right? And this is its own era, right? The Victorian era, of course, it's its own era, but it has its own type of spooky, creepy.
And there's some really good, like haunted and paranormal, like ghost story books from that era.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say, though, is that it sort of kicked, I think, most of this off and brought it in popular culture, but it stands on its own as its own individual creep. You know what I mean? Like today's creep is the stuff you see on television. Bigfoot out. It's like short, real quick clips of stuff.
Yeah.
Bigfoot's out in the woods. Aliens are in the sky. There's monsters in the ocean. And you see little clips, little reality clips, right? To let you know that, man, these things are out there and you got to be on guard. It's a different kind of creep, whereas it seems like Victorian era is a slow burn.
At the time, though, I kind of think, like with the books, this small, thin novel or short story,
Also, I think back then in Victorian time, they were really wordy in general, right?
Yeah.
We're not wordy anymore. We're down to like, we want to see that creepy thing in 10 seconds or 20 seconds or a minute,
Yeah.
So we go, woo, and then move on to the next scare, whereas back then they had to serialize things and, kind of get it out there, and they built that slow burn.
But we serialized. Tune in next week for the next episode of Ghost Adventures.
Well, yeah, sure, so, but it's just not the same.
I don't know. I kind of think it is, because if you think about it, back then for Christmas, you had a choice. You could either read the Bible for Christmas, or you could go pick up a nice small copy of Charles Dickens's Christmas Carol. So...
Yeah, but it was like pop culture stuff back then.
Yeah.
It'd be like...
So, am I going to watch like a 3-hour Christmas movie?
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, though, is that the information that you absorbed or whatever, okay, we're in information absorbed in whatever pop culture stuff you absorb, right, took a lot longer to get to you all the way around than it does today. Today, you can fire up your phone and watch scary crap instantly. There, you had to wait.
And see, that's the thing. I think because we're much like some parts of Victorian culture, we're isolated again. We're all at home again.
Yeah, so but not really, though. I mean, we are because we're isolated from human contact, but we have the entire essence of the world's intelligence at our fingers.
Yet, for some reason, a lot of us are latching on to the paranormal.
Yeah, because it's uncertain. It's scary. It's emotional. It's all of those things that you can enjoy from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah.
And if you stay locked up in your own home long enough, you're going to see some stuff you probably didn't notice before. And, hey, it kind of happens.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some more Christmas stuff. So some of the strangest traditions around the world.
Oh, okay.
We're going to talk about 5 of 10 of these.
I want number 7. So
okay, well, I haven't got that far yet. But anyway, so the Ukraine has a spooky seasonal decor. They put a spider web.
Oh.
Yeah. It's the legend of the Christmas spider. So the kind of story goes like this. A woman and her children were living in poverty in their home, and a tree started to grow in their house. Glow. I can't read.
Yeah.
So on Christmas Eve, the tree became covered in spider webs. And when they woke up the next morning, the spider webs had turned silver and gold.
Okay.
And because of that, now people in the Ukraine decorate their trees with spiderweb ornaments as reference to the tale of the family's good luck and fortune because it made their tree pretty. And also, that's where we get the idea of tinsel.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And I kind of like that tradition.
Yeah. Let's do Austria real quick. Scary Santa, otherwise known as Krampus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't until really recently where Santa Claus in general became super nice, and his little suit went from being blue to red.
Yeah.
You know why Santa Claus's suit is red?
Why?
Because Coca-Cola decided to put Santa Claus in a red suit. It was blue before that.
Really?
Yep. Think about it. A lot of times with the holidays being the way the holidays are, and then we roll into Christmas, don't you kind of associate Coca-Cola with Christmas?
Well, yeah, everybody, but that's because the polar bears.
But that's what they did. Coca-Cola turned that suit from blue to red to let people know, enjoy Coke, it's Christmas time. It was blue for a long time. Did you know that?
Oh.
No, you do.
Well, I'm actually looking at Quora.com where people answer silly questions. And it says it wasn't even originally blue. The very first depictions were tan and brown. But in 1863, Thomas Nast depicted him in blue, and it stayed that way till Coca-Cola.
And the reason why it was tan and all that stuff is because Santa Claus was a wild man who lived out in the woods with a bunch of small people called elves, making toys sweatshop style to give out to the unfortunate or less fortunate children.
Many people think it was a Coca-Cola company that created the red suit, but it was actually Nash in the 1800s, not Coke in the 1930s. However,
I don't believe that.
However, Coke did have a hand in defining the way we see Santa today in the 1930s.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That's when they had cocaine in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cocaine. Okay, so the scary Santa from Austria, he takes gifts to kids all over the world on Christmas Eve. He loves to eat milk and cookies along the way, but in Austria, there's much more unusual figure associated with Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And basically, Krampus is the exact opposite. So if you're a little butthole, he's going to take it to you.
Yeah, he would put you in a burlap sack,
beat the crap out of you,
tie the sack shut, and then beat you.
Yeah. Which I think is funny because I wonder how many parents, because this is back in the olden days, they believed a good switching was good for the soul. Because remember, you can beat the devil out of a child.
Don't say that.
You just have to try, right? So that was the attitude back then. So I wonder how many parents snuck in the room, right? scooped their kids up in a flour sack and just beat the crap out of them, and then went and jumped back into bed and blamed it on Krampus.
Oh, God. That's awful.
You know what, though? I would have to say problem solved. If that kid's like a terrible kid, chances are you just get beat up out of the blue and blame it on some demon-like mythical feature or creature. You're going to behave. I would. If you're a little kid, you believe anything your parents say because you're stupid. That's what you do. You have to believe in what your parents say because you don't know any better and they're supposed to protect you. Hey. So Krampus kind of came about as a way around Christmas time to punish children that have been bad. Can you imagine doing it? It's like when your it got you in the store when you're a little kid and it's like speaking to you between clenched teeth and says, if you don't start straightening up in the store, I'm going to take you out in the car and beat the hell out of you.
Would you stop?
You're going to believe it, right? It's the same thing. So I think some children could probably benefit from a little bit more restrictive justice than a timeout, because sometimes you just need a correction. Now, if you're one of these people that don't believe in, maybe doing a little bit more harsher punishment on your children or whatever because you had some kind of personal thing growing up in the past, I apologize. If you're one of these people that got a switching once or twice and have lived to tell the tale and you didn't do the infraction that caused it in the first place and it kind of kept you on the straight and narrow path, good for you. You can do whatever you want. But, I think back then in the 1800s and even earlier, old Krampus would show up and beat them kids half to death. And they learned real quick. Because life was shorter back then. I mean, you didn't have time to mess around, sit in a corner and time out for 20, 30 minutes. Let's just get a whooping and get it over with and get back on. So you're like, huh. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like, how do you train your kids? How do you learn your kids, right? Do you tell them that the stove is hot and then let them burn themselves just to prove a point? Or do you give them a little swat and then eventually if they're too dumb to learn and keep doing, then you let them burn themselves? It's really a personal preference.
Okay.
So whatever you guys decide on how you want to raise your kids is fine because they're not mine. So do whatever you want.
Great.
Right. And you catch them pitching the fit in Walmart, I'm going to yell at them. Even at Target. I'll just use, better language than Target. Like, excuse me, fine sir.
Stop.
So.
What the heck?
I don't know.
All right, I'm moving on to number 7.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and... No, we're skipping. I just did. No, let's skip it. I don't like that one. Oh. It's putting faces on logs. Who cares?
It's called TOD Nadal.
That's why I didn't want to do this. It had foreign words good. I can't pronounce.
Would you stop? This is a Christmas tradition. It's specific to the people of Catalonia, Spain. TOD Nadal is a hollow log that is found in the homes of many people in this area during Christmas season. Some choose to purchase a log that sits up on 4 legs with a face painted on it, but some families leave their log plain. Now, it's a hollow log. So on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, families then use a stick to hit TOD Nadal while they sing songs that refer to this log as a poop log until presents and candy fall out of the hollow center of the log. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of awesome.
The first time I looked at that, I thought that the people had the log in their house and they just pooped on the log. Kind of like you bring the outhouse inside, right? It's like.
Now, some families have the children leave the room and pull out the gifts to set near the log to keep up the illusion that they came from inside the log.
And then other families swoop their kids up in a burlap bag and beat the crap out of them.
You need to let go.
I mean, it's not funny.
Okay.
But it's funny, like the Christmas pickle from Germany. Right?
Yeah.
And people put a pickle on there. I don't know why, but... So they say it's tradition in Germany to hide a pickle ornament somewhere in the Christmas tree, deep within the branches of the tree. And on Christmas Eve, the children all search the tree for the pickle. Mm-hmm. Whoever spots it first is said to get a special reward from St. Nicholas himself. Right? Mm-hmm. And so people keep this tradition alive when they adorn the tree with the pickle.
Yeah.
I wonder what you put in there for Krampus. You bad like a little hanging little piece of coal.
Let go of Krampus.
Right? Okay, so here's your personal favorite, South African fried caterpillars.
That is not my favorite.
That's a Christmas treat. Oh. Like in New Mexico, we enjoyed tamales at Christmas time. I guess in South Africa, they like fried caterpillars.
That's No, thank you.
In South Africa, right? Mm-hmm. The only real unusual food that tends to be eaten around Christmas time is fried, crispy, delicious Kentucky Fried Caterpillar. That's what KFC really stands for, right? That's what it is, fried caterpillars.
Don't tell the people of Japan where.
Right now, Colonel Sanders is like, you mean we can fry caterpillars? Does it have 14 herbs and spices or whatever?
You know, the people of Japan celebrate Christmas with KFC. It's apparently a really big thing, and you just gave KFC another idea.
You know what?
Sell a bucket of fried caterpillars.
I'm like 99% sure there's some dude whose job it is to go try to find new items to put on the menu for KFC and all this other stuff. Like probably some like food scientist guys, like in South Africa eating a fried caterpillar right now, going, "Do you think maybe we could do that?" You know what I mean?
So every time.
Yeah, so you're like, let me get a 16-piece fried caterpillar and a,
Every time Taco Bell takes something wonderful off their menu, KFC puts something horrible on theirs.
Hey, it's kind of like when a butterfly flaps its wings, it creates like a hurricane or whatever it is. What do you call that? The butterfly effect? And speaking of Taco Bell, why do they keep messing around? I mean, people were just kind of pissed by that. They keep taking stuff because like we got the grilled cheese burrito and I liked it. I'm like, this is delicious. This is probably going to be something I can get all the time. And they're like, nope. They like leave it up to the individual Taco Bell place. I don't know if it's franchise, and say you can sell it or not. And you go online, you look at the app and like, hey, sweet, we can get a grilled cheese burrito.
No.
Then you show up and they're like, thank you for going to talk to me. Can I get a grilled cheese burrito? They're like, no, we don't sell that here.
Or they tell you there's a problem with your order and cancel your order and then leave it in pending for 2 weeks on your card.
Yeah, so they're trying to hit your account for like $80 in Taco Bell. And you're like, come on, man. And it's like, how much Taco Bell can you get for $80? Like all of it. Get all the Taco Bells. And did you notice that Taco Bell has really sort of stepped up their game in general, and now they include brown napkins.
Oh.
You know why, right?
Why?
You're going to poop later.
Oh, God. Stop. But yeah, that's the thing. Every time Taco Bell takes something wonderful off their menu, KFC is going to put something awful on theirs, like caterpillars.
Well, it works. Some fried. Anyway, I was just thinking of my Waffalo Bill creation. It's still top secret. Been working on that for like 6 years. Okay, so the U.S., basically one of the big Christmas traditions is a cozy fire, but now it's on TV because that's the kind of world we live in now. You can't have a real fire. You're going to have it on TV where it's safe.
You know Hulu has a whole channel?
Do you know that we have the whole channel? We have satellite TV, and guess what? There's 2 channels.
Oh,
Yule Log
yeah,
and Modern Yule Log.
Modern?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what the difference is between the two because I refuse to click on it to see what it actually is.
You know, somebody tried to launch a YouTube channel where it was a fire, like a nice fire going on, but it was also a Christmas movie playing in the background. And that got shut down because it was a Christmas movie that somebody else owned.
Copyright. Somebody's like claiming fire and stuff like that. And most of those claims actually are automated. They don't even, there's not even a person that looks at it.
Oh,
it's a big business scam that these companies do. Oh, I own that in your video. I own that. I'm going to go ahead and claim it and copyright. You're going to keep some of the money. We're going to get some. It's like, dude, it's raining. It's raining in the background. How can you claim it?
Okay.
That's what they do. And you have to send them a letter. Like they tried to claim my own peanut butter song. They claimed it, and so basically I did a copyright strike against them.
Okay.
It's like, that's my song. So as a consolation prize, they did send me some fried caterpillars.
That's not true at all.
Yeah. I'm going to tell people pork skins, pork rinds, the chicharrones is actually fried caterpillars.
Don't do that. Why?
Because next time you chew into one, I'm like, hey, that caterpillar. It's delicious. Okay, so speaking of caterpillars and being delicious, let's move into our next basically thing about dark Christmas and history traditions and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
These are, I don't know, dark history stuff.
Oh.
The dark history of Christmas traditions, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from the independent UK, so it's not American, it's from overseas, and they talk about different things. Mm-hmm. And like one of the things that I read earlier, and I'm like, what is that? It's festive jumpers.
Oh,
Jumper's
okay.
another name for hoodie. Did you know that?
Sweater.
It's like a hoodie.
I thought it meant sweater.
Either one. It can mean either.
Okay.
So they don't call them like athletic jumpers, but I guess some do. So little baby Jesus, 3 wise men followed that star, and that's the true meaning of Christmas, but it might just be festive jumpers, panic-driven spending sprees, drinking too much, and having the almighty row before the queen's speech.
Oh.
That means argument.
Okay.
Yeah, row. Because the queen gives a Christmas speech, and I've never listened to one, so I don't know what to tell you what it's all about. But a lot of times it talks about embracing, I guess, the fellow man and all the other stuff like that, and does talk about the country's problems a little bit and how they're going to fix it. So people have been marking the midwinter for far longer than the 2,000 odd years since the birth of Christ, and even that's in doubt. Right? So they're talking about, like, in 1 year, 340 A.D., Pope Julius the first fixed the date of Jesus' birthday as December 25th.
Okay.
Which a lot of people say that's not the case. He was born in like August or September or something like that. So
yeah.
I don't know. So before that, it was marked on at least 3 different other dates, like 29th of March, the 6th of January, sometime in June.
Yeah.
So 250 years later, Julius's successor, a few times removed, Pope Gregory, strong name. Really? My name is Greg, and you're Omi, and you're listening to the CreepGeeks Podcast. So they talk about, with this sort of thing from Pope Gregory, he gave the job to St. Augustine for converting the heathen Brits over to Christianity, and they did it December 25th.
Okay.
So now they're saying that's when it is, and that's when it's celebrated. That's the birth. Mm-hmm. So because the idea of getting blind drunk at Christmas isn't something invented by the Pogues and your dad, there were 2 major pre-Christian festivals that roughly coincided with Christmas in general, right? Because they're talking about the times. It's trying to roll it all in there and make it fun. It's kind of like when your company that you work for tries to roll in a bunch of crap together to make it a festive time, like Employee Appreciation Day, the 4th of July, Memorial Day. Let's just roll it all in together and give the people a cookout. Right? Saves them money and time, right? Okay. Let's have a holiday party that combines Turkey Day, Christmas Day, and New Year's all together so we don't have to have individual celebrations. So, anyway, so these 2 major pre-Christian festivals that were happening, you had the Roman Bacchanalia or Saturnalia, and the Yule Feast for the Norse countries. Mm-hmm. And so the Saturnalia began December 19th and lasted for the best part of a week.
Yeah.
That's like Christmas party, right?
That's a good week. And
during that time, morality and restraint were politely shown the back door, which means you got your party on, so basically the exact opposite.
So I took Latin, and it was like a toned down version of the Purge. Like, a lot of laws were thrown out. Nobody was tried or convicted during that time. You could legally get away with horrible things, like if you really liked your neighbor's wife, you could go over there. You could take other people's slaves.
According to this, is like the slaves were able to swap places with their masters.
Yeah. You would have a day that was devoted to slaves beating their masters instead of their masters beating them.
That's crazy.
Like, really.
Yeah, they elected a king for the duration of the festival, and the wealthy distributed gifts to the poor.
Yeah.
You know why, right? So he wouldn't beat them.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
Yeah.
So the Roman god Saturn, which is basically the honor of the festival, that's who they named it after, and was pretty much, it was like party, sort of hedonistic sort of, party time.
Which is weird, because Saturn was kind of he wasn't benevolent like Christ, but he also wasn't like overly mean like some of the underworld gods.
He was just a regular dude, man.
No, actually, he's kind of somber. Yeah. Kind of serious, but ancient astrologers always thought being born under the sign of Saturn was bad news. So, haha, Sagittarius. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so not many of us celebrate the Saturnalia sort of party festival thing. There are some vestiges that were left over from some of these older traditions, like related to that, right? Like mistletoe, which is a parasitical plant that grows on other trees. Yeah. That's evil. But what was once thought to be the wood that Christ's cross was made out of. I didn't know that, but anyway. Because it can basically fully form into its own kind of tree. So the Norse mythology tells us of the god Balder, who was killed by an arrow made of mistletoe.
Oh, wow.
But mostly, the association of the plant with the ancient druids of England, basically, they cut it down And, they would use it as ornamentation, decoration, and they didn't want to lose its special powers.
Yeah.
So they used it in medicinal rituals and medicine.
Yeah. So they had to catch it in a cloak or a robe before it fell out of the oak trees so it wouldn't lose those special powers.
Which is kind of nice. So it also used to be said that mistletoe was banned from the churches because of the pagan associations. But in York, the minister basically says, ancient links to the Vikings and all that. They used to have a special mistletoe service where the city's wrongdoers could beg the pardon of the church.
Okay.
See, you turn a negative into a positive, right? So, and it talks about from mistletoe to the holly to the ivy. You have to be careful with those because, these are like regular Christmas sort of staples, but because they reek of danger.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, holly okay, so some of that stuff's kind of poisonous, so.
Yeah.
But they kind of lay it out there. It said, according to old customs, holly should never be brought into your house before Christmas Eve or you'll get some bad luck.
So all those people who decorate their trees with holly are giving themselves bad luck.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So you got to keep that Yule log burning to keep all the spirits away, I guess. It says, okay, so and here's something that a lot of you probably should write down somewhere.
Including us.
Yeah, well, fooled you. We didn't really put any up this year. But it says, all of you know, this is like facetious, right, that your Christmas decorations should be taken down by the 12th night or January 6th, which is technically one of Christ's early birthdays.
Yeah.
But the old English tradition says that you shouldn't just throw away Christmas greenery out the door or a death will occur in the house before following Yuletide.
Oh, wow. So
it says the customs were written before the advent of the recycling wheelie bin. So, of course, you might be able to circumvent them in that way by putting them in a wheelie bin, instead of just throwing them out the door.
Yeah.
The safer bet is to store the holly and the ivy in the house until next year. So, and according to the lore that goes along with the holly and the ivy, it's a surefire way of preventing a lightning strike on your home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then it says, and this is where it gets super English here, and perhaps you should save a sprig of holly to stick on top of your Christmas pudding.
Oh.
Like you see on Christmas cards, but never actually done in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And while you're doing that, remember that the making of the Christmas pudding is steeped in folklore as well. Now, I've never had a Christmas pudding, as it's time to eat the Christmas pudding kind of a thing.
Maybe that could be our...
Okay, having been to England,
Yeah.
some of the stuff that they have, is gross. And meat pie and blood pie and all that. And their puddings are not like Jell-O brand Puddington, whatever that's, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's like, let's just mix a bunch of weird crap together and put some, tapioca root and stuff. You watch the Great British Bake Off shows, their puddings are kind of weird.
I was reading something about, early pioneer America and, the prevalence of pies. How when certain explorers would travel out and go stay with other, pioneer settlers, they would eat pies. It was, a very common thing. And it wasn't just, a sweet pie. It would be, these kind of British pies, but they had American ingredients in them. So things like
hot dogs.
No, pioneer era. So it'd be, pioneer sausage, local root vegetables and things like that. And they were actually kind of good sounding,
Until you eat them in real life.
But they were like a cornmeal.
We do have modern versions of that. They're called pot pies.
Pretty much, yeah. But these had a lot more vegetables in them, and cornmeal. So I actually kind of wanted to make one, but then I lost the link. So
that's good. Because I would hate to have to lie to your face if it was not good. That's delicious.
Anyways, if you have a pioneer pie recipe for Christmas, you should send it to contact@creepgeeks.com so I can make it.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of other stuff out there. Talk about the Christmas Eve traditions, stuff like that. So so traditionally, Christmas Eve is a time for restless spirits to walk the earth, which is kind of what happened to old Ebenezer Scrooge, right?
Yeah.
And it says, should you be brave enough, legend has it that if you venture into a graveyard on Christmas Eve and dig a hole, then you'll find gold.
Ooh. Where does that come from?
I don't know. Never heard of it before, but it says, be careful getting there. Because on that night, cattle are said to kneel down and speak in human voices.
That's some very Irish
Yeah.
sound
And those
stuff.
leaving the church on Christmas Eve while the consecration is still going on are guaranteed to witness a procession of ghosts winding their way through the streets. In other words, if you leave the service early.
This is from like a UK thing, but
Yeah.
you hear similar stories in New Mexico.
And here
Yeah.
in Appalachia.
Yeah.
Or Appalachia.
Appalachia.
Whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of those traditions come because a lot of people came from Europe. So we still have them, like, including the ones that around here, people do. They make the loud noises and stuff to scare away the spirits. And that's like Christmas carols, right? People go around caroling. It wasn't happy singing happy, joyful songs. It was to be as loud as you can to scare the spirits out of the house that you rolled into the new year clean.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, so what else we got? So Christmas, Father Christmas is a jolly old man with a white beard. We know Father Christmas as St. Nicholas / Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. And that could be traced back to Asia Minor, about 350 A.D., right? Mm-hmm. And then that also kind of includes later on, about the 19th century, with the folklorist type character, which is Kris Kringle, which is German, and then let's add Krampus in there in the burlap sack.
Yeah.
So in the magazine, Harper's Weekly, it published what's thought to be the first illustration depicting the modern Santa Claus depiction.
Yeah.
In 1860s. And it says, though he originally wore green robes and had associations with the Green Man, which can also be tan because of the changing of the seasons and stuff like that, right? And the Green Man legend, and the Green Man, of course, ruled basically his pagan belief. So you're looking at Pan, ruled the woods, the forest, the earth in general, the seasons, that kind of thing was all done by the Green Man. So they depicted his robes as being green because of the association with the pagan lore of the Green Man, right? Mm-hmm. And it's often said that Coca-Cola invented Santa as we know it now, and then they swapped his traditional green livery, which is clothes, for the red of the Coke's branding, though the company didn't debut ads featuring Father Christmas enjoying a Coke and smile until 1931.
Oh, like I said.
Yeah, but he'd been seen in his more familiar red once or twice before then.
Probably because that Nash guy.
Maybe.
Yep.
So. And so what would be the dark side of Father Christmas / Santa Claus?
Krampus. Yeah.
That's right. What am I going to get for Christmas? You got a present for me, Krampus? That's right. Got you a little ass whooping right here.
Okay.
Okay, so there you go. That's about it. Comes to that particular thing there. Almost smashed my microphone through the computer by trying to scratch my shoulder.
Well, we probably should have mentioned this one when you were on your crispy fried caterpillar kick.
They are delicious.
I'm just gonna go through a couple of these, but
some Parmesan cheese, maybe.
Oh gosh, some of the craziest and most bizarre holiday dishes from the Christmas past. Yeah. So,
are we talking foods?
Yeah.
All right, let's bust out some Christmas foods before we get to the Christmas musics.
My favorite one is the top one, which I was like, peacock meat.
What?
Peacock.
Living in San Diego, you could probably get you a peacock pretty cheap.
So during the medieval times in Europe, it was common for the wealthy to have peacock as their meat at Christmas dinner. There was a peacock pie, roasted peacock, and many other variations that included the feathered bird. But all that changed in the 16th century when England's Henry VII decided to have turkey for the annual feast.
And so probably at that time it would also have been determined that peacocks taste like garbage.
But peacock is a cousin of turkey.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, because like their tails do the similar thing. So, yeah. And they're big and they're mean. So...
gross.
Yeah. Now, the other ones aren't as, I'd be willing to try peacock. I bet it's very gamey.
What about birds inside a hollowed out seal?
This is the one I'm not, no. It's called kiviak, and it's from Greenland. And
Is it kiviak?
Kiviak, I think, yeah. So, this is hundreds of little birds preserved inside a hollowed out seal. That's disgusting. And the picture that they have, it looks like they've kind of minced or diced some of the seal fat out. And, oh, God, it's just gross.
If you take some of those fried caterpillars and sprinkle them up, put them on top of that, kind of like a garnish or maybe like a crumbled up sort of what do you call this? Croutons. Probably pretty delicious. So.
Now, the one I was going to talk about is just, I don't understand. Cake with a single dried bean and a pea.
We're just going to skip that. That's one of those 19th century, 18th century garbage things that they would eat. You know, they called it like the 12th cake.
Yeah.
And it's basically garbage, right? Inside the dessert is a dried bean and a dried pea. Whoever found the bean was deemed king for the night, and whoever found the pea was queen.
That's gross. Because you can't just leave the dried bean or pea in there and then bake it. You'd have to put it in after the fact, which means somebody sticks their grubby finger into the cake and jams it in there someplace.
I don't know. I mean, you got to cook a pea or a dried bean or pea for a long time, so it'd probably hold out long enough to maintain its dry pea/bean shape.
I think it would absorb the moisture, and then somebody would inevitably eat the bean or the pea. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, is it New Mexico? Or is it like Louisiana that has the king, the baby king?
Louisiana has king cake.
Louisiana has the king cake.
Yeah.
Where you find a little baby Jesus in your cake.
Yeah. Or you may or may not have to go to the dentist because you cracked your tooth on a baby Jesus.
Well, it's pretty obvious that you see it. You know what I mean? So if you're just blindly eating stuff without looking at it, that's the same as blindly using the bathroom without looking to see if the lid is down.
Or if a snake's in the toilet.
Yeah.
You know what?
At the end of the day, it's a wash, right? Because the same action it takes to lift up the toilet seat is also the same action it takes to put it down. So there will be no winning of that argument.
Oh, look, your fried caterpillars are in here.
Nice. What about goose pie? There's still a tradition of eating goose for the Christmas dinner.
I would do it. Yeah.
I wouldn't eat goose pie.
It also has...
You can also get some sheep's head. How about that for,
those are only horrifying.
You got to have the eyeballs left in it. So... It's an old recipe that was the normal for Norwegians back in the day. And it's recently made a comeback because, those Norwegians, right? It's moved up societal ladder over the centuries, and it's used as a poor man's meal. Now it's a delicacy because back then nobody wanted to eat a sheep's head with eyeballs in it if you were royalty or whatever.
Yeah.
But now let me tell you, though, you sprinkle some of those caterpillars on it. It's probably delicious. Jellied confetti chicken.
Oh, gosh.
Now, when you say jellied confetti chicken, what do you think of?
I think that you make a chicken and then you throw Jell-O on it like confetti.
No, I think you take a chicken and you shred it all up and you mix gelatin with it, and there's your slab of gelatinized chicken.
Oh.
Yeah. That's delicious. And what really makes it good is if you sprinkle some fried caterpillars across the top.
Would you stop?
It's from the 50s, back when they were really trying to pump Jell-O out as being
instead of fried caterpillars in the 50s, they used mayo, lemon juice, dried
chicken,
and heavy cream.
Yeah, and Jell-O, and you mix it all together, right? Oh, the heavy cream was there to make it look like snow.
Oh, God.
And some say that this dish even resembles a dead bird.
No,
it resembles a brick of throw up. So, then you got dried whitefish, also garbage. My favorite is the shrimp on a Christmas tree using the green olives and pimentos as something. So you take a bunch of raw dead shrimp, right, and you peel them, and then you remove the poop line, and then you basically put them on the Christmas tree.
You spend hours.
And you use the black olives, right, as like little ornaments and stuff, and then you drape the shrimp behind it, making lines of shrimp up this Christmas tree.
You make the Christmas tree out of sprigs of parsley, and then you spend hours decorating this parsley tree.
Well, you got to use a styrofoam cone.
Bringing all of the shrimp to a nice room temperature.
And when you're done, you had an edible tower. Yeah. Oh. So there you go. Those are some delicious Christmas, crazy traditional garbage foods that you could eat around Christmas.
Yeah. And if you decide to make any of these, you need to share that with us. Go ahead and jump into our Facebook group and share your picture.
I'm going to go ahead and give this one an honorable mention.
Yeah.
And this is probably going to be my favorite.
Oh, God.
Vegetable and tuna gelatin.
Oh.
Yeah, and you mix it in a mold, right? So they have like this bundt cake mold, and it's white. And it's got chunks of olive on top to give it some decorative look. and it's tuna fish mixed in with some Jell-O.
Oh my God.
As in gelatin. And in the center, they did some like oiled up little baby cherry tomato looking things. And
see, the middle looks good.
It does.
It looks delicious.
But it's vegetable and tuna.
Oh God.
Gelatin. Can you imagine getting that in a box? It's like just add like 1 pound of shredded chicken or tuna. You know, that's the crap your grandma will whoop out up on you, and you're like, oh, God, well, I'm not eating that. How come nobody's eating the tuna gelatin?
You know, we're supposed to be like a paranormal and weird news podcast.
This is
so
freaking
far,
weird.
We have turned into a horror
so
podcast.
What if you know, this is one of those things where, food horror. You show up, and you're like, it was a dark and dreary night.
Tuna.
The car broke down, so we had to stay at this Airbnb, and they were enjoying Christmas dinner. And they had all the staples there, like vegetable and tuna gelatin. A cake with a single dried pea and bean in it. It had birds inside a hollowed out seal. Right? A goose pie, which might be delicious. Sheep's head with the eyeballs still in them.
Oh, God.
Delicious fried caterpillars. Jellied confetti chicken. Dried whitefish. And shrimp on a Christmas tree.
Yeah, I've been sitting on a table for like 5 hours.
And everybody there is wearing basically sweaters made out of shag, carpet, and polyester stranded stuff. So it's got to be amazing. But you better be nice about it, or Krampus will put you in a bag and beat the hell out of you, right? That's disgusting. Yeah. So anyway, speaking of disgusting, if you ever showed up to anywhere I am, like say we have a party and me and Omi have invited you, and you show up with any one of those dishes, we are no longer friends.
Don't say that.
It's true, though. If you showed up with a tuna gelatin thing, thinking that's funny, we'll fight you in the front yard. That's all there is to it. That's disgusting. Yeah, so anyway, there you go. That's it for that.
Okay.
So, we have talked about a bunch of garbage stuff, so let's talk about real quick, what are some of your favorite holiday/Christmas gifts you've ever received? And don't Tiny Tim me either, like, I just wanted my legs, or something stupid like it. We're talking about gifts. Because that's all Tiny Tim wanted, right? Was like world peace or something dumb like that. You know what I mean? I just want to walk again, sir. That kind of thing. It's like, oh, come on, man.
Stop. That's not fair.
It totally is fair. That's a cop-out. Like, if you could get anything in the world, what would you like? People go, I would just like world peace. It's like, get out of here, man. It's a cop-out. Like some people back in the 70s or like almost into the 80s wanted like the Battlestar Galactica, whatever, playset or whatever. Like, I just want world peace. It's like, come on, man. There has to be something that you got that was your favorite. I'll tell you what mine are.
Okay.
Bicycles.
Really?
Yeah. I had a problem with bikes. Kids kept getting stolen all the time, so I'd get a new one at Christmas. It was fantastic. I enjoyed it. A new bike. Roll out.
I mean,
bikes were freedom, man.
I got a bike on my birthday. Like my bike, it was weird. My little brother got his bikes on Christmas, and I got mine on my birthday. So it was weird.
It is weird.
Yeah, because we had a horrible Christmas where Montana got on his bike, no training wheels, took off, so proud of himself, and then he hit one of like those, like a curb with a sewer, and flew over.
You mean a gutter?
Yeah, gutter. Well, like
storm drain?
Yeah, the storm drain, that's what it is. And yeah, really wrecked himself. So basically we spent the rest of Christmas Day at the hospital.
This was supposed to be like the best Christmas gifts, not like your worst Christmas.
No, that wasn't.
Which was worst Christmas for him.
Yeah.
Spending it in the hospital, but I'm talking about like Christmas gifts, like your best Christmas gifts. Mine, I've always liked bicycles. So when I got a new bike, I thought it was great.
You got me a lens. And believe it or not, that's like one of my best Christmas presents.
I got you a couple lenses.
Yeah. My mid lens that I always fall back on. So, yeah. Actually, no, because I really, really enjoyed using the 10 to 20. Yeah, the 10 to 22 or 10 to 18. Yeah. I really like that one.
I thought I got you that one too.
Yeah. I don't remember if you got me that one on Christmas.
It could have been, it's not about when we were together. You could have got it like as a kid.
I know, but if I'm supposed to say my best Christmas presents, it's got to be like the lenses you've got me.
Mine were legs so that I could walk.
Stop. Those lenses are kind of like the bike. They allow me to do something great.
All right, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I like the bicycles and stuff. I mean, you know, I like lenses and all that stuff too, but the bicycles were, I don't know. See, that's just it. I've never really wanted like hardly anything ever.
Yeah.
You know, I would never like, oh man, if I get the Battlestar Galactica, you know, I've never really, you know, I just never really, you know, I don't know, never really cared too much. I mean, there were some certain things like, I don't know. I can't think of anything. Like, okay, so there's always like that one, like, got to get Christmas present thing. And for the most part, I was never really interested in those.
No, I wasn't.
Everybody's like, oh man, you got to get a Rubik's Cube or whatever. I mean, they're cool. I did like, you know, getting the Atari and all that stuff and new games and, you know.
My mom's thing was the holiday Barbies, and I didn't like Barbies. It was kind of one of those things that was kind of forced upon me. Like,
well, that's probably because she really liked them and didn't really get them growing up. Or, you know, there's weird modern traditions that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like it used to be like a dollhouse or a Barbie doll or whatever.
And
yeah, because that's what you did in the 50s.
Yeah,
so
it was like
that's what the grandparents did.
Holiday Barbie for years, and I wasn't allowed to open it. It was just, you got a holiday Barbie, put it on the shelf. Yeah. So that's.
But I mean, I guess it would be bicycles, and I still like electronic gadgets and gizmos. You know, like one year I remember they were like mini arcade games. One was like Space Invaders, but it looked like a small arcade game. Mm-hmm. So they had like Space Invaders, and the other one, I don't remember what the other one was, but I really like those because when we took long trips from Virginia Beach to go into the mountains of North Carolina, it used to be 8 hours straight up.
Yeah.
So having a sack of batteries and being able to like play Space Invaders or something like that for the entire trip was fantastic. I think the other one was Pac-Man, because that's back when like Space Invaders and Pac-Man and
see, I didn't. The reason I'm like the
old school video games. I'm not talking Pong because nobody liked Pong because Pong's for suckers. So the
reason I'm saying lenses is because I wanted a lot of those things growing up. I didn't get those. I got girly things. Okay, so
don't get all mad at me.
So
you know that's on you.
So I get to enjoy those things now as a grown up through like the whole retro scene, like getting them now as a grown up.
Yeah.
So
well, it's always stressful too. I mean, especially with kids, you're like, man, trying to get your kids to like trying to figure out what they really want and all this other stuff, and then you worry that they didn't get anything good for Christmas, or you got them a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't that one thing that they want. And it's like at the end of the day, you just want to go up there and grab a burlap sack and wait till they go to sleep.
I don't think I deserved a burlap sack.
I wasn't talking about you. I'm just talking about in general. It's not all about you, homie.
Okay.
It's about going, okay, spend $300 on this and you want to play in the box instead of the stupid toy, you know, that kind of thing. Get that Krampus sack going on. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And here's something too. Do you guys get your pets Christmas presents?
Absolutely.
Some people do, some people don't. Some people are like, they're animals, that's stupid. And it's like, you're stupid. Of course we get our pets. I mean, they're family members, man. Yeah. And people that don't have pets don't understand. But unfortunately for us in the 70s, growing up with like our pets and stuff, some of the Christmas treats that they would get and presents and stuff were like M&Ms.
Which you're not supposed to.
Bananas, you know, whatever, man. Stuff that you're probably not supposed to feed a pet, but they didn't really know was bad for you.
Back then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I know right now somebody's listening to the podcast is like, you should never give a pet human food. You should only give them dog food. It's like, they didn't have dog food in the 50s and 60s, really.
Wasn't it like invented? Like
it was invented by, it was invented by like Purina or whatever, the people that made like food for cows and junk. And then they started shaming people for feeding them human food. If you think about it like this, dogs in general, let's just say dogs, either had to fend for themselves and you didn't feed them anything at all, or you fed them from the same food that you eat. So when you're in there buying a sack of dog food, it's like $80 because it's the best whatever, and you frown on other people for slipping them a piece of ham, I'll take a piece of ham any day of the week over that garbage dog food.
dog food was invented, dry dog food was invented in 1860.
Yeah, because it wasn't much different than the grain feed that you would feed cows and other farm animals.
Didn't pick up until like around the First World War-ish almost.
When we started mass producing and canning everything.
Yeah. And the first dog food was invented by a guy named James Spratt after seeing dogs being fed leftover biscuits from a ship. So he formulated the first dog biscuit, which was a mix of wheat meals, vegetables, beetroot, and beef blood. Beetroot.
So a bunch of garbage leftover ingredients with basically fried caterpillars and beef blood.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. When did dry dog food actually start to pick up? And it was in 1941 because the metal used to make cans for canned dog food was being used for, war efforts. Yeah. So cereal companies were actually ones, people who make our breakfast cereal were the ones to come up with shelf-stable food solutions for dogs in bags.
Yep.
Yeah. So all that to say, I buy Christmas presents for Pepper.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, there you go. Well, okay. So anyway, we hope you guys have an enjoyable holiday season and hope we can roll out and roll into 2021 safely. At this point in the podcast, we'd like to play you some free Creative Commons type music that you can get on the internet and not worry about copyright and stuff like that. So we have about 7 minutes of delicious music.
Okay.
But before I do that, let me tell you who they are, and because I have to. The first song is Carol the Bells by Alexander Nakarada, and we have a link to take you to the song itself and the standard license that goes along with the Creative Commons license that you have to give attribution to. And the next song is called Tape Lo-Fi by Winnie the Moog, also with a link that takes you right there if you'd like to download it. And then the last one is Christmas in the House by Frank Schroeter.
Oh.
Yeah, also with a link that you can go to and download these musics if you want. It's Creative Commons. You have to give credit where credit is due, and we just did that. So, if you're looking for something to watch and you want to watch something, kind of spooky and kind of nice this holiday, it's like the 200-year anniversary of the Bell Witch.
Oh, yeah.
So you can certainly watch that. And Small Town Monsters with Seth Breedlove, they did a really good job with the Mark of the Bell Witch movie.
Yeah.
So you can watch it on Amazon now. So you should totally check it out. So we do have a link to that if you want, kind of check it out. You can certainly do that. All the links and everything we talk about on the podcast are available on our website, CreepGeeks.com.
Yep.
So anyway, happy holidays. Be careful, and we'll see you again real soon.
Yep. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Enjoy your metal Christmas.